Hey everyone, welcome to SI Now. It is Tuesday, it's March 7th, and I'm Maggie Gray.
I'm Ryan Aselta. Maggie, that was a nice welcome.
It's
Very
Tuesday.
Warm and big welcome to everybody.
Yes. Well, I'm feeling good because we're starting off today talking about the most versatile athlete in the 2017 NFL Draft. Jabrill Peppers worked out with two different position groups on two different days at the NFL Scouting Combine. And Ryan, he hasn't ruled out potentially lining up on the offensive side of the ball as well.
Does he kick as well?
Yeah, right. Play a little quarterback, although he did in high school.
Yeah.
So let's get the thoughts of someone who knows Peppers well, was part of his development from New Jersey high school standout to college All-American to likely first-round draft pick. That is Greg Russo, was Peppers' associate head coach and offensive coordinator at Paramus Catholic High School in northern New Jersey. Also was track and field coach for 3 years. Now he's the head coach at Queen of Peace High School. And Coach Russo, thanks so much for being with us. Okay, we know that Peppers didn't spend all 4 years at Paramus Catholic. He went to a rival high school down the road for a couple years. So you were aware of him from a young age. How early on in his football career at Paramus Catholic did you realize he had NFL talent?
I mean, right away. I mean, the first day I think we practiced or ran with the team, you could see his special talent. I mean, it's not surprising me that he's in the draft and doing as well as he is, and doing everything that everyone's just kind of realizing now. We knew right away.
How did you know? Sorry,
yeah.
What'd you see? How did you know from that first day, Coach?
I mean, just his size and the way he's able to move at the size he is. I think that's what you could see at the combine that everyone's seeing now. He's a pretty big guy. I mean, maybe he's not that tall, but he's pretty big, and he can move for someone his size. He's quick. He gets in and out of his breaks. He's explosive as can be. I've watched him run in track for a long time. I mean, he was a great 200-meter runner, a great 100-meter runner. He's a great football player, and I think what everyone else is seeing also is what a great kid he is and what a great man he's become.
All right, Coach, I was a St. Joseph regional guy, but I'm going to put my allegiances aside right now here against
I'll hold you guys.
Catholic. All right.
I'll separate you two.
Maggie mentioned Jabrill transferred after his sophomore year at Don Bosco Prep. How many positions did he play at the time, and was the plan always for you guys to use him at multiple positions at Paramus Catholic?
When he came over, he was for the most part just a corner, and they used him at running back part-time prior. When we had him, we wanted to get him in at safety. A lot of times at corner you could throw away from somebody. So Coach Partridge started playing him at safety pretty early, wanted to move him around depending on who we were playing. On offense, I wanted to use him in every spot possible. So he played slot, he played running back. We put in a whole set where he was a quarterback. We were running a lot of read game type stuff. And it was a lot of fun just making up different ways to kind of get him the ball. And he makes you look good,
Absolutely. So looking at the next level, looking at him going to the NFL, you were his coach for a long time. Where do you think he should play? Because it seems like he could be a fit at multiple positions, but where is he best?
I mean, the thing with him is, depending on where he goes and how they want to use him, I think he's capable of doing anything they want him to do and doing it well. I coached him on offense, so I used to always argue I thought he was a better offensive player, but that's probably because I just wanted him there more. But, he can do whatever it is. I mean, he definitely could play safety. I've heard some people saying, maybe he's not tall enough or something like that to play safety, or he doesn't know what position he is. He can easily play safety. He'll be a great safety in the NFL. He runs well. He's strong. He's tough. He's got a good nose for the ball. I don't know what that's about. People are saying, what position is he? To me, that's not a question. It's you can use him wherever you want to, in your scheme.
And that's a dilemma you guys dealt with, a guy so unique, so talented at so many positions. Did it ever lead to a debate amongst coaches as to how best to use Jabrill?
We were all fighting over him. So I was trying to tell the defensive coach that I think he's more of an offensive guy. He was saying I need him on defense. Special teams wanted him there. I mean, and then the same thing happened in college. So, you could see it even at the college level. At a place like Michigan, they're doing the same thing, right? They're trying to fight over snaps.
You guys probably love that. Kept all the rival coaches up at night. Where are they going to use him this week? What's he going to do? How is he going to hurt us? Since Jabrill is such a hybrid, Coach, we gave him the Frankenstein treatment. We kind of pieced and patched them together. Watch this. Welcome to the workshop. No, not Build-A-Bear. Build-A-Jabrill. Jabrill Peppers is one of the most fascinating prospects in years. So who does he compare to? Not just one player. At 5'11", 213 pounds, he is the build of fellow hybrid Deion Buchanan. With a blazing 4.46 40-yard dash time and the ability to play all three phases, he is the legs of fellow Wolverine Charles Woodson. After banging out 19 reps on the bench press, he has shown he has the strength of bruising Seahawks safety Earl Thomas. Coach Jim Harbaugh said that Peppers can learn any assignment you give him around a defense. Reminds us of the head of an all-time great, Troy Polamalu. And finally, Jabrill is a player who's willing to do whatever it takes to win. His heart is questioned by no one, just like that of Tyrann Mathieu. So there you have it, a combination of Charles Woodson, Earl Thomas, Troy Polamalu, Tyrann Mathieu, and Deion Buchanan. No pressure, Jabrill. Okay, Coach, we didn't want to feed the beast too much, but what did you think of our comparisons of those 5 NFL players and Jabrill Peppers kind of being a hybrid of all of them?
I think it's true. I mean, he's as talented as somebody gets. I mean, it's all going to come down to like who takes him and what they want him to do, but he can do all those things. You know, for a lot of people, that's a lot of pressure. He seems to handle it really well and kind of enjoys it and enjoys kind of putting on a show and going in and doing different things. And, you know, he's got a great mindset. I think that's one of the biggest things. And I think that's what people, you know, just kind of watching the combine is something that I saw and it reminded me of is just what a great kid he is and how he carries himself and, you know, what a great teammate he is and a good leader. So I think that's what I think a lot of people are going to see, you know, even more so than maybe all the things he's doing physically at the combine.
Coach, you mentioned there a little, it's got to be so rewarding for you as one of his former coaches to see him at the combine, close to being drafted. Is there a moment, is there a story that you think back is your favorite Jabrill Peppers story from his time with you?
I mean, just everything, just the way I don't think a lot of people don't realize how hard he's worked to kind of get to this point. You know, like I started playing him at quarterback a little bit, and we were kind of just fooling around doing some Wildcat stuff. But he like went out there and he spent extra time with the quarterback coach and learning how to drop and learning how to do all these things. And he wanted to do everything perfect there. And like he was only doing it just to run the ball, but like he took it like, if it's something I'm doing even some of the time, I'm going to make sure I'm really good at it. And he spent, you know, a lot of extra time doing things. He was always out there early and staying late. And, you know, it's showing now. And it's great to see, you know, how it's all worked out for him. But it's not surprising because if you saw his work ethic and his talent, even at a young age, you know, everyone can see it.
What a great example he can set for your Queen of Peace football players now, Coach Russo. We appreciate your time and sharing your memories and thoughts on Jabrill Peppers. Thanks a lot.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
Great insight from his former coach. Amazing looking at the numbers. Top speed in the 40 for linebackers, top 20 in the 40 for defensive backs. It's going to be a headache a coach in the NFL would love to have, is having him on their roster.
Listen, we're going positionless in the NBA. We're basically going positionless in the NFL. I don't think anyone besides maybe the quarterback and, I don't know, maybe the long snapper, like who's going to have a position in the future?
May see him on special teams. And get ready to hear that word hybrid over and over with Jabrill Peppers this season. All right, man, Conference Championship Week in college basketball saw 3 more teams punch their ticket to the NCAA Tournament last night. Iona, NC Wilmington, and East Tennessee State.
Woo!
They're all going to be dancing next week, but many teams are anxiously sitting on that proverbial bubble. Here's SI's Michael Beller with a look at a few schools that still have a little bit of work to do to secure a tournament bid.
It actually sounds
Power Conference tournaments take place this week, giving bubble teams one last opportunity to impress the selection committee and get one of the last spots in the field of 68. These 3 teams need to do serious work this week if they are going to be happy on Selection Sunday. Kansas State heads into the Big 12 tournament as one of the last 4 teams in our field, but an early exit could have them on the other side of the bubble. The good news for the Wildcats is that any win or wins they get this week will strengthen their resume. They open the Big 12 tournament against Baylor, and if they win that game, we'll likely see West Virginia in the semifinals. The Wildcats beat both of those teams as well as Oklahoma State on the road during the regular season. It's those 3 wins that have them in the running for an at-large bid. Iowa played its way into the at-large discussion over the last 2 weeks. The Hawkeyes won back-to-back road games against Maryland and Wisconsin, their 4th and 5th top 50 wins of the season. They're working against losses to Memphis and Omaha, but there's no question that the field of 68 is in sight. The Hawkeyes cannot add to their resume in their first Big Ten tournament game. If they win that one, they will move on to take on Wisconsin in the quarterfinals. A win there could be enough for them to force their way into the dance, and a trip to the Big Ten title game will likely get them in, no matter if they win it. Syracuse starts the ACC tournament with one of the most intriguing resumes in the country. They have 3 great wins over Duke, Virginia, and Florida State. On the downside, they lost games to Boston College, UConn, and St. John's, and did all of their damage at home. The Orange opened their tournament on Wednesday against Miami. A win there could certainly be enough, with the Hurricanes a tournament lock. The Orange would remove any doubt about their at-large candidacy if they win that game and then go on to beat North Carolina in the quarterfinals. Selection Sunday is guaranteed to be fun for all of us. It will only be fun for Kansas State, Iowa, and Syracuse if they do some heavy lifting in their conference tournaments this week.
All right, we'll see if Syracuse can get in. I think the tournament's always a little more exciting when Syracuse gets in because they can go from having an RPI of 75 to making it to the Final Four.
Yeah,
you never know.
If they got in last year, you'd think they're probably going to get in this year. Syracuse tends to get the benefit of the doubt.
Listen, because they're exciting. Let's keep the college basketball conversation going. On Monday, I caught up with 7-time NBA All-Star and 2-time NCAA Tournament champion, Mr. Grant Hill. Watch this. Grant, let's start here. UNC evens the season series against Duke. Michael Jordan addressed the crowd at halftime. Not sure if you saw it. Here's what he had to say. Take a listen.
I wish you guys nothing but best. The ceiling is the roof. Let's make it happen. Let's keep moving forward.
All right, Grant, the ceiling is the roof. What does that mean to you?
Well, I'm not quite sure what that means. I think I understand what Mr. Jordan was trying to say, and, sometimes you stumble on your words. And I know if I were addressing the crowd in Cameron, I would probably stumble over my words a couple of times. And I don't want to say anything too bad because I don't want to mess up my Jordan shoe brand connect by saying anything bad about Mr. Jordan.
It's personal, Grant. It's personal when it comes to you. You don't want to cut off the pipeline of Jordan shoes. Just going back to this game, Grayson Allen gets called for a technical foul for elbowing Brandon Robinson in the face. Now listen, Allen, he took a ton of heat from the Smith Center crowd. You played alongside perhaps the most hated Duke player of all time, Christian Laettner. Has Grayson Allen achieved that status yet?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I think the difference between a Christian Laettner and a Grayson, Christian embraced that. Like, Christian embodied sort of that villain role. Grayson's a good kid. He's had some incidents that have occurred. And, I think everyone is just now all of a sudden he's sort of thrusted into that role. The interesting thing with him, though, is that he plays with a lot of aggression. He plays hard. He attacks the basket with sort of reckless abandon. And much like Christian, Christian, endured a lot of abuse from the visiting crowd, but he liked it. And it actually, he thrived in that environment. And I knew when people yelled at Christian that he was going to go out there and put up big numbers.
You always keep it interesting. When you're looking at this team, if you're drawing up a last-second shot, are you going with Grayson Allen or Luke Kennard?
Well, it just depends. I think with Duke, I think one of the things that Coach K is great at is just sort of reading his players and understanding who's got the hot hand, understanding the situation.
Okay, so Grant, going off of that, if you're talking all-time Duke players, Coach K needs to draw up a last-second shot. Is he going with Laettner? Is he going with you? Would you pick yourself in that instance?
When you talk about Duke players who've been clutch and you go off of their track record, it's got to be Christian Laettner. Christian Laettner, he hit that shot against Kentucky to win that game and take, and lead us into the Final Four in '92. Like, that guy, I'm telling you, he always delivered, and he was so much fun to play with. And yeah, he was a villain and all that, but as a teammate, he was simply the best. And so I'm partial to my era and to my time, but I have to go with Christian Laettner.
Grant, we have so many photos of you at Sports Illustrated, and I would say fashion forward through all of your eras, my friend, and it hasn't stopped because now you are partnering up with Pizza Hut for these brand new pie top shoes. Now, it's a little twist. It's wearable fashion that's also functionable. You can press a button on the right shoe, syncs to the Pizza Hut app. You can order a pizza just by pressing on the tongue of the shoe right there Grant, how many pizzas have you ordered with this so far?
Well, I mean, first of all, before I answer that question, it is really cool. And I think it really speaks to how easy it is now to order pizza, and particularly as people are preparing for March Madness or the upcoming NBA playoffs or whatever. You know, pizza is such a staple in terms of watching sports and sporting events. Pizza Hut is offering any large two-topping pizza for just $7.99. So not just making it easy to order, but also making it affordable. But that's I like sausage and pepperoni. That's my go-to. That's what I've been eating from Pizza Hut really since I was a little kid, and that hasn't changed much at all.
Nice pregame meal, maybe postgame meal. You get some protein in there with the sausage and the pepperoni. Grant Hill, on behalf of Pizza Hut with these pie tops, appreciate it. We're going to start ordering once the tournament games begin. Got to keep our staff here, blood sugar up, got to keep them fed. Thank you again. Really looking forward to the tournament. Appreciate your time. Thanks, Grant Hill.
All right. Thank you. Have a good one.
You too. We know Duke is going to get their fair share of critics. They always do. But a team that had a complicated season is the Kansas Jayhawks. They won another Big 12 title and finished as the #1 team in the country. And that's the good news. What is not so good is what is happening off the court. What Coach Bill Self called, quote, crap and distractions has at times warranted much more serious language. There's been a laundry list of incidents at Kansas, including allegations of violence against women and the investigation of the rape of a 16-year-old woman in a KU dorm. Here's a timeline of the Jayhawks season away from basketball. We'll start on December 9th. Kansas women's basketball player Mackenzie Calvert had her car vandalized in the parking lot of a local bar. We'll come back to that in just a moment. But a week later, there is an alleged rape of a 16-year-old girl in the student dorm that houses the men's basketball team and other male athletes. 5 Jayhawks players were interviewed as witnesses. On January 26, forward Carlton Bragg was charged with possession of drug paraphernalia. He was suspended for 3 games before reaching an agreement to dismiss the charges. Just days later, a university investigation found that guard LaGerald Vick likely committed domestic violence against Mackenzie Calvert, that female basketball player, back in 2015. It's the same woman whose car was vandalized earlier in the year. On February 2nd, Vick and star forward Josh Jackson were reported as persons of interest in that car vandalization. And on February 24th, Josh Jackson was charged in Douglas County District Court with criminal damage to property. His court date is set for April. And that's just the short list. The only punishment we know of were those 3 games missed by Bragg. Self has said the other incidents were handled internally. And Ryan, I'm reading that list and that timeline, and I'm questioning just where is the leadership? I mean, there's been zero discipline nearly from Coach Bill Self. There has been almost no comment from Bill Self. And I understand that he is a legend in the coaching world and has been so successful, but he is not above reproach here. He's presiding over a program that has had multiple incidents over the last few months. And, after decades where these types of stories have been swept under the rug, players and coaches, teams are now being held responsible and accountable when they act inappropriately. Why should Kansas be any different in this case?
Well, so many things jump out at me there because there's a wide-ranging string of events that have occurred. First of all, when you look at the main and the most egregious acts there, that the school ruled or found that the player had more likely than not committed domestic violence against the female basketball player. Yeah. Months later, the two were in a bar together. How does that happen? That led to the female player throwing a drink in that player's face, which led to the altercation in the parking lot where the car was vandalized by another Kansas male player. How did that even get to that point after the school had known that there was an incident between 2 of their student athletes? I bring Bill Self into question here like you do, and more along the lines of his recruiting practices. These players, they're wide-ranging incidents. There was an expired license plate tag. Okay, that could be just a dopey college kid, 19 years old, ignoring something that turned into more serious. But there's some serious things here where judgment, questionable judgment was, done by these players here. So Bill Self's recruiting practices, the type of players that he is bringing into Kansas, that may have to be looked at. And Maggie, let's look at how these are handled. The NCAA pushes this off onto the universities to handle it. To hand down punishment is in the hands of the universities, which is a big, big conflict of interest when it comes to guys like Bill Self playing a part and saying, we're handling this in-house.
Right, and going on to win another Big 12 title. I mean, here's my thing. I think it should be taken on a case-by-case basis if someone gets accused of something, and whether or not that means they should automatically have to sit out while this investigation is going on. I think that is a case-by-case basis. You take into account the person's history and sort of their standing, and maybe and also the facts around the case for sure. But if you find out more likely than not that the kid and the player committed an act of domestic violence against another player, to me, that's it. That's it. You have the investigation, that's their findings, that this person was violent with another student athlete. If I'm Bill Self and I have no discipline, public discipline against this player, let alone kicking him off the team, which would totally be within his right, I mean, what kind of message does that send? And, you know, you and I have both interviewed dozens of college coaches, and they always like to say, we are just grooming young men. We feel like we are more than a basketball coach, more than a football coach. We're trying to mold them into good citizens. I mean, you have a guy on your team who's committed domestic violence, and where are you? What have you said? Absolutely nothing.
And you're talking about grooming young men. How do you groom young men if there is no consequences for your actions?
Yep.
You have a player who's connected to multiple incidents. Two players here. The player who's connected to the drug incident was also connected to the alleged rape and a situation with a 16-year-old girl.
Yep.
And I go back to, where does the NCAA step in? Can you imagine if our professional leagues, the four major sports leagues, still at this point were handing off domestic violence, any type of abuse cases to the teams to handle discipline on those? There'd be outcry throughout the country, throughout the world of sports. So why hasn't that happened where the NCAA, in serious situations like this, where it's domestic violence, violence against women, drugs, why isn't the NCAA handling this? Why is it they letting a school where there's agendas? Let's face it, Kansas basketball program goes well beyond the walls of that university. It's a community thing. The desire to win stretches way throughout that state, throughout the conference, throughout alumni. A lot of agendas, a lot of opinions come into play here. And all of a sudden, we get a university who may not be as impartial as they should be, handing down discipline or not handing down discipline in this case.
Yeah. You know, I just think it's a good question. It's something to be talking about before the NCAA tournament starts. Kansas is likely going to have a #1 seed in this tournament, and you want to feel good about everything happening in college basketball. You want to feel good about the other Kansas players who have nothing to do with any of these incidents. But it's something that has to be discussed, because if they win the NCAA tournament, how are we supposed to feel about Kansas? It's just really complicated.
And it's going to be discussed because they're going to continue to be asked about it throughout this NCAA tournament. The lights, they start getting a little bit brighter now.
Yeah. Kansas, obviously, they begin their run of the Big 12 tournament on Thursday. They'll play the winner of TCU and Oklahoma. Completely switching gears now. Ryan, did you see the Woodley-Thompson rematch over the weekend?
Oh, no. I was binge watching The Bachelor to get ready for the 3-hour finale last night.
No,
so
it wasn't even the finale.
Time for that. Or
we wish that was the finale.
I guess you're right. 3-hour just.
This is the show that never ends.
I don't know what you call it. I had some other viewing to do.
Other viewing to do. The UFC clearly looking for some new stars after that match. One of them could be French heavyweight Francis the Predator Ngannou. I caught up with him earlier today. Francis, you're 5-0 with 4 knockouts and a submission. You've said in the past that boxing was your passion, but did you always know you'd find success in MMA, or has this come as a shock to you?
People tell me that I can have a success in MMA, but I know I'm not very interested by that. I just want to be a boxer, and then I pass some time in Paris, but I always keep training about them both, because I start to train MMA. I just like it like this. It was funny, and then I continue boxing. So
it was funny.
Yes.
What was funny about mixed martial arts? It looks pretty serious to us when you're getting
It's
kicked and
excited
punched.
because he have many steps. That is a smart fight. So lot of game plan, lot of strategy, and something that we now have a lot in boxing.
So you are from Cameroon and then went to France and now are in the United States. France has outlawed mixed martial arts recently. You cannot do cage fighting in that country.
Yes.
Do you see yourself as a proud mixed martial artist who happened to live in France, or do you see yourself as a lawbreaker and an outlaw?
I think I can bring something to that. I can participate to Le Goulazite MMA in France if I bring the belt in France one day.
You think you can change that law?
Yes, I think.
How?
To bring the belt to be the first French Cameroonian guy to be the world champion. I think he could change the thing.
What do people in your native Cameroon think of your career?
In Cameroon, they are very, very happy because not one not believe that I can do this. I remember that when I start boxing, I just say I want to start boxing now because I dream about long time ago, and then they were just like, you are crazy. What is that? You don't have not one behind you, and for this country they are not supporting Bursa, and then he's very difficult. Look at someone before you, they not have success, and then I just like, I'm gonna try. Maybe I'm wrong, but I'm gonna try, and then to do what I want to do.
Your next fight is not determined yet.
Yeah,
You want to fight Cain Velasquez.
absolutely.
What kind of challenge would that present to you?
For me, it's some big challenge because when they told me about MMA 4 years ago, and then I didn't know what is that, and then I go on YouTube, I watch the video, and then I see at the time Cain Velasquez is the champion. I see Velasquez, I see Dos Santos, I watch a lot of heavyweight fight. And then for me today, fight them is some opportunity to prove myself that I'm ready, I'm able, and then I'm a good fighter.
Only 4 years ago, you're watching Cain Velasquez on YouTube. You may end up in the octagon with him. That would be quite a story. Okay, turn to the side so people can see your hairstyle here. How long have you been rocking this? What is like a lightning bolt? Where'd you come up with this idea?
I think 4 months ago.
4 months ago.
Yes.
Was it your idea?
Yes, it's my idea. I just want to change style.
How have you found? Has it helped your fighting? Has the haircut helped your fighting?
No, it's just some style.
Clearly, you're a man with a lot of style. Francis Ngannou, we really wish you the best of luck in your MMA career. Thank you so much for stopping by.
Thank you very much.
Little known fact, Ryan Aselta used to wear his hair just like that. And we convinced him to change it. Sports Illustrated.
Yeah, I don't know about the carving. My kids have been begging me to carve their sports numbers in their hair.
You got to let them do it.
I haven't been on board, but Mom is, so I'm going to lose this fight. They're going to have like 23 in the back of their head.
Your kids are much cooler than both you and I.
Yes. Definitely me. You may be able to hang with them.
I'm not shaving anything in my head. No thanks.
Before we go, here's the one thing to watch tonight, and it's a goodie. The West Coast Conference Finals in college basketball. Gonzaga and St. Mary's will meet for a third time this season with an automatic bid to the NCAA Tournament on the line. Now, both teams, they're locks to make the big dance, so this one comes down to seeding and revenge. The Zags have won both meetings with the Gales this season and are making their 20th straight WCC Finals appearance. That is amazing. Though Gonzaga has just one loss on their resume, St. Mary's may actually be the hotter team at the moment. Fresh off a 31-point pounding of BYU in the semis, the Gales come into the game with a 28-3 record and have won their last 6 in a row by an average of 23 points per game. They're going to look to knock off Gonzaga in the finals for the first time since 2012. 20 straight conference finals appearance for the Zags.
Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, now I'm just curious whether they're going to get a #1 seed in the tournament. I mean, they're at 31-1. If they win tonight, that would be huge. And then we'll see what happens with some of the other
Tough not to. I guess it depends on Carolina, UCLA, what they do. But tough to give a team that could be 32-1 not to give them a #1 seed.
Can say they deserve
We've seen crazier things.
We've seen crazier.
Yes.
Ryan, thank you so much. Of course, we'll be back tomorrow at 10:30 a.m. Eastern with a fresh look at all the latest sports news. But until then, stick with SI.com. And don't forget to follow us on Twitter. At SI Now Live is our handle. Have a great afternoon and take your kids to the barber immediately.
I have to go today. You're right. See ya.
James drove his RAV4 hybrid into Hard Knocks Canyon, where he confronted death again and again. But death would have to wait. He earned a man's gratitude and his shirt. How far will you take the all-new RAV4 hybrid? Toyota, let's go places.